Hello, 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 and welcome to Emerald Thoth with me, Mark. This is a big one. So today I'm going to talk about what is a starseed. And today, different from all my other videos I've done before, this is not channeling as such. It's not a card pull reading. It's just a discussion about what is a starseed, about the consciousness of this earth. And don't follow the labels too much, but it's to give you some idea of why you're here. And if you are drawn to this video, I have no doubt you are drawn to this video for a reason. Whether you've heard this term starseed before, or whether you've heard it before and you're just reinforcing it, or you are the protector or the friend, the colleague, or you know somebody, you're the parent most likely of a starseed child. You are drawn here for a reason, and because there is information here to help you understand what you're looking to understand right now and who you are. So I'm going to go through 5 points of how to identify a starseed, and that could be 10 or 20 points to be honest with you, but there are key indicators where you can really kind of detect somebody, a being who is a starseed in human form on this earth. But I'm going to start with where we are right now and the history of planet Earth a little bit, and a little bit of the untold history of planet Earth, because we need a kind of starting point from where we're at this juncture, and why starseeds and higher consciousness beings are so important to us right now as a collective species, because even if you are a starseed, you are still a human being in human form at this present moment in time. So, starseeds essentially are higher consciousness beings from other planets, from other stars. And they're here on this Earth to help with the ascension of Earth. Starseeds have been on this planet for millennia. There's hidden, not so hidden if you're looking for it, but there are clues and information within the history of human species in ancient civilizations, we call them ancient at the current time, that have information and knowledge, and starseeds have been assisting human beings for millennia. The Egyptian gods, the Greek gods, the Roman gods, I would post you are all starseeds. Thoth is a starseed. Ra is a starseed. Hermes is a starseed. Hermes is likely an incarnation of Thoth. The Sumerian gods, the Babylonian gods are all essentially starseeds. And some angelic beings that have seeded as well, and angelic beings would seed through to starseeds as well. If you're still with me, you may have a concept of what's going on, or you may be intrigued to learn more. And so why are starseeds here, and why are there incarnation of starseeds at this present moment on Earth? Because Earth is an incredibly important juncture. Earth is on the verge of a cataclysm, and there are many clues to see this. There's a show called Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix, where you go through that, but there's many clues, there's many ancient texts, the Nag Hammadi, there's many versions that Mary's Gospel, there's Mary Magdalene's Gospel. There are many clues within texts that have been suppressed and hidden by a more 3D egoic consciousness in human society. And as I see a van kind of drive past, I can see a sense of that we're moving away from that, we're moving on from that as beings, because the reason I say that there looks to be a cataclysm on Earth, because the Earth is currently unsustainable in the way that human beings live on it. There have been, according to Native American, according to indigenous traditions, there have been 3 cataclysms so far, and there's possibly a 4th. One of a volcanic kind of eruptions on the Earth, one with an ice age, and then with a flood on Earth. And the flood on Earth, it goes through many kind of the ancient civilizations as the most recent cataclysm on Earth. In Christian mythology, that would be called Noah's Ark. But it's in Mexican traditions, it's in Egyptian traditions, it's in the history of Atlantis. It spoke to a higher power, basically reforming the contract with human beings. I mentioned the rainbow yesterday. A rainbow of Noah's Ark is a covenant with God, with Source, with the Creator, to reform the contract with human beings, because human beings and some higher consciousness beings, some angelic beings, had veered away from the divine plan and faced judgment. And at the moment we're at a similar phase. So if you take the example of Atlantis, the history that is suppressed suggests that they were far more technologically advanced than we are now, or similarly technologically advanced, it's hard to tell, but they were quite highly advanced. Thoth was an Atlantean priest. He brought He was a beneficial kind of higher consciousness being to bring this information. And he tried to teach the human beings in Atlantis not to stray too far from a divine consciousness. Otherwise, there are consequences. There is karma. There is redirection. I hear birds crow to confirm. It's like a kind of three of swords in the tarot, if you will, of a sense of sorrow, a sense of Saturnian element, Saturn in Libra. So Libra, the balancer, Saturn, the kind of structure, and karma, it's that kind of correction to be like, okay, you're suffering a sense of pain and a redirection. And that's essentially what that karma is, and that's, in a major sense, a higher power will bring cataclysms, and so Atlantis, with all its advancement, was flooded. And so were many other places across the earth at a certain period that had come after the Ice Age cataclysm where the earth had cooled. And so we face similar issues now. We are facing global climate crisis. The temperature of the earth is raising up to a degree, the sea levels are raising up to a degree that is going to be unsustainable. Human beings as a population are unsustainable because they're too widespread on the earth in the current form. And so we face a cataclysm. With the technology we have, it's still, well, we know it's not even as high as some higher consciousness technologies on earth. And so we need to change, we need to shift and adapt. Because here's what we face as humanity right now. Humans are essentially a virus on the earth. Now, if that offends you, you may click away if you're still here, or you may know in your bones that that is how humans are operating on this earth. That includes all starseeds and higher consciousness beings, so we are part of the collective. But the way a virus operates from what we know in a human body is it looks to take over the host. It takes over the cells in the body, it uses up all the resources in the body, it attacks the other cells in the body. Now, if we look at human beings on Earth, there are many endangered species because of human beings. They have spread and multiplied like a virus across the host, which would be Earth. And they are causing damage wherever they go. Human beings are raping the Earth. It's undoubtedly a fact. And going back to more indigenous cultures like Native American cultures or Aboriginal cultures, they all understood that there is a balance, that there is a sacred circle, a hoop to life, and they will only look to take as much as they need from the land, and they will look to give back to the land. They also understand astronomy, the concept of the stars, of how the planets align with us, and of a higher consciousness beings, and especially of the creator, source, universe, wonders of all. If you want to call it God or Yahweh or Allah, the definition is not as important as what it defines. And so the thing that we face is that human beings are a virus on the earth. And when a virus is on a host body, one of two things generally happens. One, that the host body will flush out that virus or raise the temperature, or essentially do a combination of both. So if we look at Earth, climate change and global warming is essentially the Earth doing that because of the effect of human beings on the Earth. And the sea levels rising, which happened in the last cataclysms, I talk about flooding, and then this is happening now, is again a sign of the host body having to push out that virus to survive. Now, if the host body doesn't succeed in getting the host virus, and the host virus takes over the body, then generally, invariably, the virus will die with the host. The host will die, will no longer cease to function, and the virus does not have a host unless it finds another host, which is rare. And so for human beings to think that we're going to live on Mars, the miracle that it is for us to be on Earth, and the lack of actual higher power that human beings have is very, very unlikely. So if you listen to the Elon Musks of the world who try and come up with these fanciful things, they are not gods, and they do not have the power to shift us to another planet. Certainly not in time, and it is inconceivable. It's more likely that a higher power will intervene, or Mother Earth itself will take us off the planet. So, let's see where the hope is, and this is where the starseeds come in, and stars are a beacon of hope. Because I believe there's a third option. At this present trajectory, we will either be taken out as in the flooding and we'll have to restart on this earth, or we'll destroy the earth and there will be nowhere else left for human beings to go. But the third option is ascension. I struggled for a long time in my 20s, I'm in my mid-30s now, with what are we going to do? And this was a sense of my own consciousness of when I was in my early 20s, I worked in a sustainability company. And while I was there, I did a graph of population. It was one of the main things, obviously water and resources on the earth, but human population. And the human population on earth, and this has always stuck with me, the human population on earth around about 1810, as we know of our modern history, 1810 AD after Christ, had got to 1 billion. And if you look at a kind of curve of population, it's probably gone something like this. And then by 1910, it's 2 billion, which is a sharp increase, and it comes along with the industrial age and technological revolutions in human knowledge. And then another 100 years later, and about 115 years later, where we are now, it's around 8 billion. This is off the chart. Now that cannot sustain on a single planet. We all know that in some form. Most human beings seem to ignore it, but it's an inescapable fact. And so what can we do to stem that? And there are things of sustainability, there are elements of eco-conservation, but it's not working, and it won't work enough in time in the current egoic 3D construct. And when I spiritually awoke myself, which is about a year and a half ago, I think I found the answer, and I share it with you now because I believe that if we are, enough of us share this knowledge, that we can stem the tide. We can reverse the tides, and we can maybe avoid a fourth cataclysm on the earth. And that answer, I believe, is ascension. I believe is consciousness. You can read it in books like The Power of Now and New Earth, especially by Eckhart Tolle, and there are a number of books out there, Think Indigenous, Dr. Goodfeather, which I'm reading at the moment. There are a number of books and there's a number of information to suggest that this can be a way forward, but it asks for human ascension. It's like cycles of karma from kind of Buddhist traditions, but it's all kind of spirituality will have elements of this, of human beings facing their karma on the earth right now, and if they don't ascend and they don't move forward in consciousness, then they will cease to exist. They won't exist any longer on the earth. However, if those cells, those virus cells, become beneficial cells, they become lighter cells, they become like white blood cells, but whatever kind of cells you want, to help the host body and to help all the beings around them in a sacred hoop of life, and to have reverence like these indigenous cultures do for the earth. We can't go backwards to be indigenous cultures, but we can move forward in a collective sense. And this is where the age of Aquarius comes in, is we can be beneficial and we can be sacred for the life all around us, and we can use technology positively. And starseeds understand this inherently in their soul. And the reason I say this is because they come from, and they have incarnated from higher consciousness realms. They may have come from angelic realms or simply interplanetary realms and come to this particular realm at the moment. Now I believe, and there's a lot of people who believe, and if you resonate with this, then you're likely to understand a sense of different densities or dimensions of consciousness. I will use those interchangeably. But at the moment, a lot of people who understand this will say that there is a 3D, a third density or a third dimension consciousness on Earth. And that's normally what human beings have. Animals would be probably more 2D, and flowers and plants and crystals would be more of a first density consciousness. And that speaks to a vibrational level, right? So, we see like crystals of rocks that are formed to have like a vibration. Animals have a more vibration, they have a breath of life. Human beings have a vibration which they can move to a kind of higher consciousness state than animals generally. And then human beings are now looking to come to a fourth density consciousness and a fifth density consciousness. And it's become incredibly necessary. But starseeds in a starseed form would be at a 6 density, 7 density, 8 density consciousness as I would see it. Again, I'm not following these models scientifically and logistically, and people will argue this. It is a model. And then in angelic realms, beings, it would be a 9th, 10th, 11th kind of density consciousness, and a 12th density consciousness would be source consciousness. These are all kind of hard for us to understand in a human egoic form. Even if you're a starseed, you won't fully understand a 6th, 7th, 8th density consciousness. At best, you could probably channel it from another being like Bashar. But you have an understanding of it. You have a soul imprint of being from another planet, from another star. And again, in Egyptian cultures, there are monolithic structures that point to the stars, that point to Sirius, that point to different star systems, because the star seeds that incarnated had knowledge of it. Our knowledge of farming and agriculture and science and technology and mathematics has come from star seeds who've had that, and it's been funneled down to us as humans to learn and evolve. And so those beings are here with us now, and you may be one of them, and you may have a fragment of that starseed consciousness and knowledge, because part of the Aquarian age and part of the challenge that we face now is to come together collectively. Aquarius, the 11th house, is about community, about products, about ingenious, about aliens. It talks about the collective, and because there are so many human beings on Earth in number, I believe that that karmic challenge, that lesson, is a way to progress, and the way to progress through that is collective consciousness, is collectively coming together in a conscious state to raise and lift the vibration of this earth. And that's the only way out. The only way out for us is through, otherwise it's out. So with that, starseeds are kind of imbued with an ancient knowledge, a spiritual knowledge, and an automatic kind of sense of being able to connect with their souls and higher consciousness. And so that is the lesson to help teach human beings, and to help teach the whole 8 billion collective of human beings on this earth, is try to get to a collective state of consciousness to avoid the fourth cataclysm. And again, that's something that Thoth looked to do in Atlantis and with the Egyptians and throughout history, to bring these teachings as we go along after the floods, to try and bring those lessons in. So at the time, and remember, time is not so linear in higher densities of consciousness. Beyond the 5th density of consciousness, the time is not the same construct as we see it now, certainly not in a 3D construct. But in the time of linear time, we're talking in 3D human consciousness, is that to try and bring those lessons to a point where we can break the cycle. And Buddhist culture talks about circles and cycles of life and reincarnation and samsara, and the element is to try and break out, as Buddha is an example, to break out of that wheel and then ascend in consciousness and essentially ascend to a higher spiritual realm as we see it. Ascended masters probably would be incarnate as starseeds and then incarnate as starseeds into Earth. Examples of Jesus and Buddha. These are individuals that held higher consciousness, but in an Aquarian age, rather than like a Piscean or an Aries age, is to hold it more at a collective level, rather than an individual martyr, rather than an individual ego identity. It's to try and hold it as a collective, and that is asking a kind of remove of the excess ego consciousness that we have. Again, in Eckhart Tolle's teachings are not to remove an ego altogether, because that is folly. Human beings still need an ego to exist in the physical form, but to lessen ego consciousness, to clear karma, to become more of a light vessel, and that is essentially ascension, and that is the way that we can help heal the earth. And so that's a bit of a history of why starseeds are so important. You may want to look up, if you are specific starseeds. I resonate with being a Lyran starseed, but you may be a Raya, an Arcturian, and Tarkan. There's many out there, and it may just speak to your soul to have that. But I would believe that starseeds have had so many lifetimes and so many incarnations as a soul. Time, again, is not so linear, so incarnations are not how we see it on Earth. But you have maybe been incarnated as a starseed in different planets, different planetary systems, and that's where the 6th, 7th and 8th kind of density consciousness, they relate to different planets and systems. And I kind of finish on with this before I move on to talking about how to identify starseeds, is that we are learning more and more as we're ready that there is scientifically, almost clearly, other beings that are around us on Earth. And this can be evidenced, if you like to go in that way, this can be evidenced by the concept of UAPs. And if you haven't looked this up, this may be something to look up as well in your investigations and your research. And so, as I adjust the camera, a UAP is an unidentified anomalous phenomena. And the reason that that's used, and it's more a scientific term in the last 10 years, is because the term UFO doesn't quite cut it. The term UFO has stigma. The term UFO says flying object, when the objects that have been observed and that we now more readily see are able to go across water and air and space. human beings do not have any kind of vehicle that can do all of those. You know, we have submarines and boats for the sea, we have aircraft for the air, and we have rockets that have to go up into space before they are able to fly in space. So there are kind of orbs or objects or crafts that RAF pilots or fighter pilots have noticed across multiple countries that are unidentifiable, that have capabilities that they know. They have the technology to track it now, but they also just know inherently that this object is moving at a speed and in a way that it could just obliterate us. And that's why the information has been suppressed. It's a fear, which is in a 3D consciousness and a lower vibration, because these beings could, and they have the technological capabilities to eradicate human beings. But they wouldn't do that, I believe. And the reason I believe that is because they're aware of higher consciousness, they're aware of source creation, and they're aware of the karma that can incur. And actually, the flood in Noah's Ark, there were higher consciousness beings, there were fallen angel beings that veered away from God's source creator, and they faced a judgment. And they used their strength and their powers to dominate human beings and to breed with human beings in not the right way, they weren't meant to. And as such, they were part of the eradication of beings on the earth through the flood, because there had to be a reset, and this power wasn't meant to be utilized in this way. And so the angels that were still in heaven and higher consciousness worked with God's source and came down and helped beings like Enoch and helped beings like Noah to retain some consciousness that when the cataclysm came with the flood, that there would be people left to repopulate. And there would be information left as well, and Enoch went into heaven as Archangel Metatron. Now this may be a lot for you, so you may want to pause, you may want to take it away, or you may want to let it sink in after you've watched all of this video. But it will speak to you, and that information is out there because we have the internet, and that's one of the benefits of the internet nowadays very much. It speaks to an Aquarian age, is that the information is spreading. There's more plurality in information and media. It's not held in one place, and that's part of Pluto in Aquarius as well, because Capricorn will hold status and things like this. But moving into that Aquarian age, it will share knowledge, and things move like air. And so UAPs indicate to us that there are other higher consciousness beings around us. There are YouTube videos of Pentagon kind of meetings and sittings that have that information out there, and it's becoming more readily available now because it's less able to suppress them, because the planets and the shifting of consciousness is happening. And so again, I'll say, if you are drawn to this video, you may be awakening to this Starseed concept, you may be awakening just spiritually, not just spiritually, you may be awakening spiritually or as a Starseed, or you may have children, and there are more children incarnating as younger soul kind of Starseeds, and I see them more as assertive empaths, which I'll go on to a bit later, but they are being incarnated in this earth to help this ascension, and they're doing it in a new way, and they're probably going to be the waves that are left. They're volunteers as such, that talk to Dolores Cannon's kind of teachings. They're volunteers on earth, and they have a remembering. They go through life cycles remembering to get to a point where they remember, and they're helping the earth shift in consciousness, at different stages. But there's a general shift, and there's a general understanding that comes particularly with our understanding of technology and our understanding of psychology, which is no coincidence that information has been fed into human beings over the last 100, 200 years, because then that can bring us to a state of higher consciousness, as well as a state of destruction. It's a pass or fail kind of test. And if we need to reset, then we need to reset, and that's how life cycles work. That's how reincarnation also kind of works for human beings, as much as we know. So, 5, and there's going to be lots within the 5, because it's not just 5, but 5 main ways to identify if you or somebody you know and care about may be a Starseed. And as I run through them, again, there'll be lots that will come out more than just the 5. Let's start with number 1. They love animals. So Starseeds generally have a natural, inherent love of animals. They may, as a child, they may love to go to the zoo, they may love to read books about animals, have toys with animals, they just get excited at the thought of animals. Now human beings have this as well, but Generally, starseeds just absolutely love and have a natural connection with animals. And this comes from a more psychic connection. People who are animal communicators are genuinely people who are using psychic abilities to help the animals on this earth. And some starseeds may be more inclined to particularly help animals. They may be eco-warriors, they may be conservationists, but they're all animal communicators. They're drawn to helping animals and they love animals. But most starseeds, if you see a love for animals, generally possibly a starseed, but it's an indicator of a starseed will normally have that amongst these other kind of factors. And again, that's important for the consciousness of this earth, the raising of a vibration. The more you are conscious, the more you understand that sacred hoop of life that indigenous cultures understand, the more you understand animals and have reverence for them. Now, some indigenous cultures may kill animals, but they would never kill animals in the way that is done in mass-produced ways. The lives they have are more part of the community, and it's generally for the community. It's generally when it's necessary to eat, and it's generally when it's, in terms of prayers or ceremonies sometimes, which is believed as necessary in those cultures. So there is still a general love for animals and understanding of animal spirit, of animals' consciousness, that they are all part of the sacred life and circle and who as much as we are. And the more human beings will go into a fourth density consciousness, which is an understanding of a creator and a connection, and a fifth density consciousness, which is an understanding of other beings and spirits around us, they would start to understand that at that level, these animals would have a similar kind of consciousness to us, a similar oneness, a similar one consciousness, source consciousness, unity consciousness. Number 2, starseeds have a connection with the earth. They have a connection with this planet. They have a connection with nature. They may love being in natural settings. They may love clean water. They may love clean air. Again, a lot of human beings do. So that's not to say that human beings don't have that as well. It's in their soul, as starseeds have it in their soul, and the souls are similar at kind of one level. Spirit is similar at one level in one consciousness. But they're more aware, they're more conscious of nature. They may be these eco-warriors. They may be vegetarian or vegan. They may walk barefoot, as I often do, on the grass. So starseeds they have a love and reverence for nature. And I can give an example. A younger starseed that I know, he never sits still when he's eating his dinner. He's only young, 4 or 5 years old. Never eats his dinner, sit still, and it's always a kind of little battle at dinner time, which I find strange because he's a Taurus and I'm a Taurus and I love food and food time. But he's often unsettled. But they live near kind of forests and woods, and once you go out in the back garden you can see like rolling hills. And there's an amazing thing when it kind of gets too much, they'll say, okay, you can go outside. And he'll take his food and he'll sit outside and he'll look at the hills and he'll look at the trees and the forest and he'll just sit in peace. Eat, still as a mouse, just looking. And so there is this kind of reverence. They may hug trees and they just have a reverence of starseeds having a connection. That comes again from a source of being connected with the earth, of one consciousness, of taking what you need from the earth, of being aware that we need Mother Earth. This is our host, this is our temple. And that may also draw them to crystals. So crystals, this is a space orb, which is Aura Chalcedony, very like starseed. Or Merlinite I've got here as well. You can see I've got Moldavite, Angelite on, a number of different kind of crystals representing planets. And there's black tourmaline and Herkimer diamond on there as well. So they're normally drawn to crystals, and again, they would understand and they would sense that crystals have a vibration. They would understand that they're part of a link. In Atlantis with Thoth as well, there are crystal temples. Crystals help healing. If you go to places with sound baths, things like this, they will use crystals because there's an understanding, an inherent natural understanding that they have a vibration, they have a healing frequency. And they may not be conscious, Starseed awakening may not be conscious, but they just have a natural inclination that they have a reverence and an understanding and a feeling for crystals and for this earth. Number 3. They are not afraid, they may be used to isolation. So being starseeds, they will have a strong connection with the soul and consciousness. And one of the most quickest and obvious ways for a being to connect to their soul, for a body to connect to the soul, is meditation. and meditation is being alone in stillness and silence. They often understand a sense of being, whereas this world is very doing. It's too doing. It's too yang energy. They have a balance of that yin energy. They have a balance of stillness. And they understand that this brings a sense of consciousness. They may not be aware and make all those links, but they enjoy a sense of stillness. And also society will force them, because starseeds will often think differently. That sense of consciousness is different. They may be very sensitive and they want to help people. And that can be rejected by a more 3D egoic society, where people are used to doing. They're used to feeding off other people's vibrations, being in an area to step away from anxiety and more lower vibrational feelings, because they can't quite embody that higher consciousness. The starseeds will know that, they'll know they have a mission, and sometimes that is to be done alone, and they know that they can connect with a higher source consciousness by doing it. It's naturally inherent in them. You know, whether they're born in a Western culture or not, and one of the unfortunate things for starseeds is mental health issues, because they push that isolation, because they don't have the mentorship. They're not in these indigenous cultures, whereas an indigenous culture, like a shamanic culture, will bring forward, they'll notice somebody with spiritual gifts, and they represent a healer, and they represent someone who's important in that community. But in modern Western communities, that same recognition is not there, and that's where we are disconnected from source consciousness, and that's where we face a cataclysm, because all of those societies came far away from a higher power, and they lost connection with that. And that disconnection can lead to a cataclysm. And so they kind of understand that. They understand this sense of connection. But modern society may reject it, and especially in Western societies, and especially the starseeds spreading out with different fragments of soul consciousness. Unless they are together, unless they have those teachers or those places that they go to, then they will feel disconnected, and that can lead to mental health issues. And modern society will label it as mental health issues. People who have known UAPs and different starseed beings and have had interactions with them previously would have been said they have mental health issues. Things like Roswell, when these are coming out in modern, again Pentagon documents, it would have been dismissed, and people have been seen as crazy. There's stigma with the word UFO. But as we understand mental health more, that is shifting. As we understand psychology more, that is shifting, because we then understand that these individuals have a psychological understanding. They have an understanding of the psyche. And you know, even Jung moved on Freud's concepts. And Freud said that the dreams are the royal road to the subconscious. And he's talking about reaching the psyche. Psyche, the Greek goddess, is the goddess of the soul. But we don't make that link that like psychology actually is us searching for the soul in modern human beings. And so going through that and going through to those depths, again, the story of Psyche, she goes to the underworld for love. And then she's kind of reborn, and she's like ascended up. She's actually a mortal that becomes an immortal in the story of the Greek gods, and one of the only stories and one of the only happy endings in the Greek gods is the story of Eros and Psyche. And so this is where we are looking to ascend. And it's not talking as literally becoming gods, but it's talking about us coming into that higher consciousness. And there are stories in An as well, in the Sumerians. There are stories all throughout history, Isis, where there is a sense of ascending, and that is understand and understood through the feminine, not necessarily for females, but females do generally have a more inherent connection as well, because they have a womb, they have a portal, source consciousness. But it's understood in the yin energy that there is a greater universe out there, there is a greater consciousness, there is a more empathic connection out there. And so through this sense of isolation, that starseeds have an understanding of this, whether they're male or female, that there is this, collective consciousness, that there is this mission as well to help the ascension of Earth, and it is historically in ancient wisdom and stories. Number 4. Number 4 is escaping me right now, which is quite interesting. And I wonder why. Yes. Starseeds have a high level of sensitivity. And the reason I kind of blocked out on that, I think, is because I was thinking I was going to say they're empathic, but I'm going to veer away from a little just saying that starseeds are empathic. They have a sensitivity, they are sensitive to energies. And again, that young starseed that I mentioned is, if you put him in a room full of people, we kind of like withdraws a little bit. But when you are with him and when he's with his parents and when he's more comfortable, he's a quite loving, playful being. But I can see and I can sense, having that understanding, that in a room full of people it becomes overwhelming. And that again feeds into the isolation. And that again feeds to a sense of empathy. But I wanna distance that. I wanna make sure we have it correct, because there are starseeds who are incarnated on this earth who are more in a beneficial psychopathic kind of energy, a more emperor energy. They maybe hold a more yang energy, but more in a healthy, balanced way, as they are more protectors. And that can be male or female. I know 2 children as well who are probably both starseeds, but the older sister is more a protector energy. She understands things, she's got like a psychic sense, but she's more protector energy. She's kind of a little bit more like her dad, who like she'll play fight with her dad, whereas her younger brother is more empathic, will like going to the zoo, will give you an ice cream and do like cleaning things in the house, which is breaking those kind of gender norms. And that's another thing about starseeds, is it's not so gender specific. It's not so identity specific, because they have an understanding of this sensitivity of energy. There can be divine masculine, divine feminine energy, which isn't masculine or feminine energy as such in a 3D sense. In a higher consciousness, angelic beings, gender identity is not such a thing, because it doesn't so much matter. If you're more in a light body, you're not really a gender as we understand in 3D construct. And so they also have this sensitivity, but they're not so much in a malignant psychopathy. Malignant psychopathy and narcissism and lower vibration energy is more lower vibrational human energy, and isn't the path to an ascension and is going to destroy the earth. But in a higher vibration, you will use kind of psychopathy, as we call it, to help people, to protect people, to make sure that things function and run well, is what I mean by that. And I can see in this younger female starseed that she's the protector of her more empathic and sensitive brother, but the genders don't so much matter. But they are generally what we might consider empathic. So there is a level of empathy, there is a level of understanding, which again we kind of associate more with the feminine, and it's more masculine to be more psychopathic and have boundaries and logic, and that's needed. Like I said, an ego is needed, logic and structure is needed, but it's excessive. We have excessive ego, we have excessive yang energy, and it is destroying this earth. It's overly patriarchal and it's not going to work. But that empathy, that understanding, that sensitivity to energies is an empath. And what I'm seeing in younger empaths, the ones that I've seen and understood, and the starseeds that seem to be like younger than 10 years old, and they're new waves, they're new souls. I would be an older soul. There are older souls who've incarnated many times on Earth. There may be starseeds who are just incarnating in their first kind of lifetimes and life cycles on Earth, and they're more assertive empaths. And they're more a balance between the psychopathy and empathy. They still have a big mission, but they are the kind of future of a more balanced way of asserting empathy. And so with that, they will have kind of be drawn to healing modalities. They will have sensitivities around being big crowds. They will understand psychology naturally a bit better, because they have a natural kind of inclination to the psyche and to the soul and to this understanding of energies in the room. They may see auras more readily. And that will lead me on to number 5. And number 5, I'm going to say tarot cards. And this feeds into a wider essence of healing modalities and connection with spirit. And why I say tarot cards is because tarot cards are the language of the universe, they're the language of higher consciousness. Going back to people who are animal communicators, people who are animal communicators will generally say that animals communicate in images. And people who are shamanic, guides will normally give visions or images. Sometimes it will be words, but generally it's images. Because the universe kind of, it's not the same as human linguistics, it's a different kind of linguistics. But those who are starseeds are naturally drawn to the language of the universe, and tarot cards are a draw. Now again, they may not all be aware of them, but I've seen that they're more naturally inclined to pick up tarot cards and not have an aversion to it. And again, that stigma is removing, that witch wound is removing, because tarot cards are not witchcraft as such, not in the negative sense. They are connection and communication with spirits, with source consciousness, with the creator, and with guiding spirits. And so we're getting a grasp of that. I believe in 200 years' time, if we're still here and if we do ascend collectively, which we will need to by, I think, in 200 years' time, then tarot cards will be on bookshelves and libraries. And if you watch many channelers and tarot card readers, that is already happening to them. They already have libraries of tarot cards. And some of them didn't pick up tarot cards at all. They may have been religious. And again, that's another thing, that Starseeds will be drawn more to spirituality than religious elements, because religious is more man-made. And tarot cards are a kind of gateway and a communication to that. And when they kind of awaken, then they'll start to realise that tarot cards are that communication. They'll be able to give messages to others. They'll be able to get messages themselves from the universe. And that will take them out of a kind of anxiety and an understanding of who they are. And that goes for oracle cards as well. And we can see a shift. There's lots more tarot card decks. There's lots more oracle card decks, because the universe is implanting a way for people to communicate more readily. I've seen 20-year-olds have tarot card tattoos. Those people may not be conscious exactly what those tarot cards are, or necessarily what they mean, but they're drawn to those cards or necklaces. And that also goes on to healing modalities. So, and psychic modalities, mediumship, shamanism, Reiki, any form of energetic healing or energetic understanding, any sort of communication with spirit guides or source consciousness would be a hallmark of a starseed, of a higher consciousness being. And it's within human lifetimes for them to awaken to that. And so these healing modalities are here to help the earth, to help raise the vibration of earth. By doing Reiki, they can help heal individuals, but they can help heal the earth. By animal communication, they can help understand animals. Reiki can help healing animals. Shamanism can help bring spiritual guides and messages to help us preserve this earth better, like indigenous cultures have shamans in there. And a way that we kind of follow it in a disenfranchised, in not the right sense in the modern world, is drugs. And people use drugs to connect with something of a source consciousness. And you'll find that natural plants, and I'm not advocating, I'm not disadvocating against plant medicine, but it's been used in shamanic tribes and cultures for centuries, now we'd include mushrooms, is that they're natural ways to connect with spirits if somebody is available and capable to do so. And that's what helps us to bring us towards spirit guides by natural remedies. But what a lot of people use in modern times is drugs, which are man-made synthetic replacements for the same thing. Weed is obviously a more natural one, but if you use weed too much and you use weed every day, then you become disassociative, and actually you're not able to channel and use your psychic gifts in a well-balanced fashion. And that's one of the things that starseeds may be drawn to, substances like weed especially, drugs sometimes, but if they have to learn not to use them in excess, because you're here to ground that light. You're here to ground that light and be a beacon, and that's part of the mission of starseeds, is to help the earth ascend by grounding light and embodying in it and showing the way, like a Jesus, like a Buddha. It's examples of those kind of Christ consciousness or, higher consciousness beings. But we need to do it as an Aquarian type collective to lead the way. And so what a lot of human beings even do as a way to do this, and some starseeds and all human beings that have an issue, is facing using drugs as a stimulant that will bring them to a sense of higher consciousness. But we shouldn't be doing it through man-made drugs. We shouldn't be doing it excessively through natural drugs. We should be doing it through the most natural way to do it, which is stillness, which is meditation, which is prayer, which is connection with a source consciousness that brings us those higher vibrations, which is bliss and joy and love. And so that's the lesson. And that's why starseeds are here, to help bring us to that in a natural sense, to help us understand the earth around us, to help us understand our connection and the sacred hoop of life, to help us remember ancient knowledge, to help us see that we can have a connection with a higher consciousness and not be afraid of it and not reject it, to see that we can avoid cataclysms, to see that we can connect together and that we can feel a consistent sense of peace and bliss and oneness in our daily lives that brings more meaning to our lives. And that is what a starseed is and why they are here. So if you are one, please remember and embrace it. Please keep going through this journey of life. If you know a child or somebody around you, please embrace them. And if you are somebody who's raising consciousness and a human being doing this, and working on it, then bless you and all the blessings to you, because you're doing some of the hardest work. And it's just for us to embrace this new knowledge, this new way of being, because if we ascend, if we push through rather than push out, then the rewards and the joy and the good karma and the ascension of this earth is something greater than any one thing we can imagine. I believe in you, all of you. I love you, all of you, unconditionally. And I give you peace and blessings, and I share my heart and my soul with you, as well as my mind and my body. Heka, Ase, Namaste. Thank you.